Good morning to the community of Inspire and Rewire Podcast. We are here for you guys, providing another episode, hopefully filled with significant value for you guys. And we're happy to be here. Start us off, brother.
Man, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. You know, I got up this morning, usual routine. I woke up pretty early this morning, like 4:45 for some reason, not with no alarm or anything. So I decided to just stay up. I had the energy, and then read a chapter in the book, and then did some self reflection. I did 250 push-ups, and then I listened to some Tony Robbins to get my day started this morning. And yeah, that's how my morning's been so far. Not too bad, man. How you been?
Man, just getting started.
Yeah. It's all good, man. We got to start somewhere. You just showed me that beat you made, dude. That shit is sick.
Yeah, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man. What was the inspiration behind that?
Just a lot of artists aren't used to having somebody that they can work with, that can bring their vision to life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
They just know, like, go on YouTube, find a beat, hop on it, and drop it. You know what I mean?
That's the normal course that usually everybody takes.
But if you really have access to a producer who can actually make something from scratch and have ownership of your music, then that's really important.
Yeah.
And ownership was the main inspiration, but then after that, just soulful, something that sounds like it was sampled from something from the 70s or 80s. You know what I mean?
Did you have fun doing it?
Oh yeah, bro. For sure.
That's what matters, because I know you've been talking about, you've been working so hard that you've been forgetting to have some fun. So I'm glad to know you had some fun doing what you love.
Yeah, not necessarily forgetting, but I think sometimes we get stuck in preparation mode.
Right.
Where we're just preparing and preparing and preparing and preparing. It's like, okay, what have you been preparing for? It's time to put that to application. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like that's something you've been working on lately? Like, just taking massive action, as I like to call it, rather than sitting back and trying to observe what could go right and what could go wrong?
1,000% on the massive action part. A lot of times I just think it comes down to overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do a lot of overthinking and getting more on the offensive rather than being so much on the defensive, because depending on your situation, it's probably better for one way or the other. But a lot of the times, I'm a really defensive person, so I'm more of a sit back, watch, observe, but sometimes offense is necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of my mentors has a saying. He says, "I play so much offense, it's offensive."
See?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's just different personality types. Some people just come that way.
Yeah.
Some people are just
wired that way,
born, and they're just like that. You know what I mean? But depending on how you upbringing and what you learned when you grew up, sometimes you got to do some reprogramming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what you have going on if you're trying to change the dynamic of a family.
So you texted me last night and you said one of the topics you wanted to talk about today is the characteristic of leading, being or leading by example, and sometimes you don't even know that. You might not realize that you're leading by example.
Yeah, you might not even realize the example that you set. I got this idea I got somebody from high school I've been kicking it with recently, and we were on the football team together and used to work out together and stuff. And
okay,
he would remember things that I wouldn't even remember.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Oh, you trying to do some curls? You were always good at those." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, you want to bench next? You always good at that."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How you gonna tell me what I was good at?
Yeah.
Like, you know better than me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a stretch on the example, but I think that could be applicable to a lot of things, because when you're leading by example and people are acting like they don't know or acting like they can't see you, acting like they don't feel you, but at the end of the day, they see you and they feel you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying.
Whether they want to admit it or not, they see it, they feel it. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's the people who act like it's no big deal that it's making the biggest impact on.
Yeah, certainly.
And that could be habits. That can be, you know, what you're doing with your day. You know, your family that's watching you on the daily, you know. They're acting like they don't see you, acting like they don't acknowledge the growth, the change. But at the end of the day, they see it and they feel it. And it's usually the ones who want to act the most nonchalant about it that it makes the biggest impact on. You know what I mean? They just got too much pride, you know, to have that conversation and be like, hey, I see you.
That's where I was going with it next. Do you think that the reason that they don't acknowledge it, you know, verbally to you or to anybody is that ego or that pride, or what do you think stops somebody from saying, hey man, I see you? Like in high school, I'm sure he was never like, man, you're good at, you know what I mean?
Not at all.
And then, you know, years down the road, he's like, you're always good at that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Man, it's got to be different for everybody, though.
Yeah.
That's the only tough part about, you know, pinning it down. But ego and pride have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we could sit here and say that and people wouldn't even understand what we're saying.
Yeah, certainly.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, so ego is whenever you feel superior or inferior to somebody, right? So if somebody's doing something and it makes you feel some type of way, like envy, jealousy, you know, you're being a hater rather than being happy for them. That's examples of when pride and ego is starting to kick in, you know. Rather than being happy for somebody, they're hating on them or being jealous or being envious or, you know, just spewing negativity, you know, things like that. And that could be a good implementation of who you really need around, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I was talking to one of my friends last night, and she is a personal trainer, like in fitness, and she's super charismatic, and she has like this high level of energy where she's always just like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, you know, super high level of energy. Super cool person. I think she's super cool. And one of the people that she was training actually went up to her manager and said, I would like to not be trained by that girl because she's just too positive. She has too much energy. Yeah. So she told me that story, right? And she told me that it kind of hurt her feelings when, you know, her manager told her that. And pretty much her manager took over in training that certain individual. And so it kind of hurt her feelings, but she kind of obviously hid that it hurt her feelings. But long story short, she thought about, you know, like, why am I too much? She started to like really do some self-evaluation and try to figure out if she was actually the problem or what was going on, which I think is great. You should take some self-evaluation, but you shouldn't beat yourself up if you know that you're certainly not doing anything in your soul or in your demeanor that emphasizes that you're in the wrong. Long story short, next day she went, and I don't know if it was the next day or a couple of days later, she went in, you know, to do her job, which is train people, and there was a bouquet of flowers waiting there, and she didn't pay no mind to it. And then at the end of her day, she looked at it because it was still there, and then on the note it was for her. And so she opened it up, and it was from the same lady who had said that she did not want her to train her. And she was talking about how in the note pretty much just giving her thanks for, you know, showing her everything that she had shown her, and pretty much saying that because of her, she feels more positive. She has more positivity in her life, and she was implementing some of the things that she was being told to implement, you know. And so my friend was all confused, like, I thought you didn't fuck with me, you know what I'm saying? But the response that I gave to her in the sense that what I think happened with that is that when you're showing people your most authentic self, it almost makes people look at themselves in the mirror. And when people are forced to look at themselves in the mirror, they start to look at their inadequacies and where they could be better at. And so because you have something that I wish I had, now instead of embracing you for having that and trying to fix what I don't have and trying to optimize myself to be that person, I would rather just punish you for it. I'd rather bring you down because you have it and I don't. But then as soon as you let that ego transcend and you have some clarity, you can realize that, man, this person's actually good for me. Why am I acting out of pocket? Man. And, you know, it takes some time for people to be able to get there. And some people never get there, even though they know they should.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what that reminded me of.
Yeah, two things on that. One is, I said this a long time ago, that it's very possible to be too positive for certain individuals.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you ever be talking to somebody and for every solution they got a problem?
Yes. Oh man, yes.
So my thing is, if you come to me, like if you want me to just sit and listen to you complain, you gotta tell me that.
Yeah.
Because if you come to me, I'm just gonna come boom, boom, solution.
Yeah.
Solution. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? You know, I'm not finna cry over spilled milk. I'm finna clean it up and package it back up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I noticed that a long time ago, that it's definitely possible to be too positive, and it's interesting because you would never think that's even a possibility. Like you would think, I'm doing the right thing. This should be how everybody should perceive me or take me. But when those people are in a place of, you know, ego or pride or whatever it may be, some type of personal blockage in their emotional states, it's interesting because everybody's in a different spot in their journey, and depending on what place they are in their journey, even if you told them the best advice they could possibly hear at that second, they still would neglect it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
So it's like, I had a friend who was dealing with some mental health disorders, you know, like anxiety, stress, you know, things like that.
Right.
And I was just giving suggestions that always helped me: reading, meditating, going to the gym, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Doing something creative, you
Right.
know, getting out your comfort zone, you know, switching up your routine, stuff like that. And it's funny because I would say that, and then years would go by, and then they're like, hey, my therapist told me I should start going to the gym and start reading. I finally started doing it.
I've been told you this.
Hey, and I'm to the point with people where I don't even say that no more.
Yeah.
It's happened so many times where I don't say, I told you so, or, oh, I knew that was going to happen. You know, I don't care who the information came from anymore or when they implement it. I'm just glad that they finally came around to implementing it. Because I've had a lot of friends where I say, hey, you know, you should read. It'll be beneficial for your career and what you do. And they kind of just, you know, shrug it off from me. Yeah. And then somebody else will tell them, hey, you should read this book. And then depending on who that person is and the influence they have on that person, they're like, oh, I'm on it.
That's exactly what it is. You hit that point very well there. It depends on the person's level of influence that they have on them, because you can tell, you know, that's happened to me countless amount of times, and I used to get almost upset about it. I was talking about that to my friend the other day, where I used to get upset about seeing people's wrongs, and then they come to me for advice, and I'm like, man, here's what you need to do. You need to stop doing this. You should do this. You should do this. And if you did that, your life would be so much better. And then they wouldn't do it, and it would almost offend me that I'm like, I spent so much time telling you what to do, and you just didn't do it. But at the end of the day, I almost look at it like I planted a seed, because eventually down the road they end up doing what they know they should have done.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that I can't force anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. At the end of the day, I can tell you what works for me, but I can't force it upon you. And it's almost egotistical for me to try to force it upon you, even if I'm coming from a place of wanting to help you. But for me to be like, you need to do this, you need to do that, like, you don't need to do anything, bro. You do whatever you want.
I had a habit of trying to expose people to too much before they're ready for it.
Yes.
Or trying to drag people to a level that they don't
They're
want
not-
to be
yeah.
at, you know?
You have to meet people where they're at. Talk about that, meeting people where they're at.
I started to realize, because I've always just somebody who wanted more out of life, wanted, you know, whether it's the financial freedom or to find a passion, to find a purpose, to live a purposeful life, you know? And when you come like that, you want that for everybody around you too.
Yes.
But unfortunately, what you'll soon realize is not everybody's on that same type of time. Not everybody has that mindset to where they're purpose driven and on a mission, on a calling, you know, that type of deal. Some people are just so infatuated and caught up in these worldly things that they don't even take a second to think, what am I doing here? What's my purpose, or what's my mission, or what's my calling, you know? And it's interesting to see. Oh yeah, and the second thing I was gonna say earlier was in The Power of Now and A New Earth, that's the sequel by Eckhart Tolle. He talks about diminishing the ego, and all he says is, as the light flows in, it pushes the darkness out. You know, so the more illuminated you become in your soul and in your inner environment, the less room for darkness that there is. And that could be for the negative ego too. The more aware and conscious you become, the less that ego is going to be able to take over you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. That was by by who?
Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle. I've never read it. I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
We got a couple good books, but The Power of Now and A New Earth is a great sequel.
That's awesome. I remember we talked about some last week where you used an awesome analogy about, you know, you asked me when you go camping, you
Did
know,
we talk about that on the podcast?
No, we didn't.
We didn't?
I don't believe we talked about it in the podcast. So tell us about that, about how people gravitate towards your light.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I heard a good analogy the other day. My mentor said, he said, what happens when you turn on a light in the middle of the woods? Like just in the middle of nowhere. What happens?
Oh, the bugs gravitate towards it.
Yeah, so there's heat there, you know, so all the bugs are coming. There's light and heat, so all the bugs are going to come, they're going to gravitate towards you. And that's what happens in life when you give yourself permission to turn your light on. You know what I mean? You become magnetic. You become attractive with that, whatever that light is, that passion, that burning, that fire, that intensity. You know what I mean? It becomes magnetic. And that's why the people who are really passionate about what they do are attractive, because they have that magnetic field to them that people come in it and they know, they feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the analogy I got was my first single. It's called God First, you know, and it's in that lane, just to say, hey, this is what it is. You know what I mean? And I feel like by doing that and dropping like something for the kingdom, turning my light on, I can hopefully spark something in artists in my city that show them like, hey, I could turn my light on too.
Like I don't have to talk about this bullshit.
I don't have to live in the dark.
Yeah.
I don't have to rap in the dark. I don't have to entertain the darkness. I don't have to walk with the wicked. You know what I mean? I could do what I do, still chase my calling, my purpose, my mission, but not talk and walk like the wicked. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's just my...
I thought that was a powerful analogy, so I just wanted you to share that with everybody. You know what I've noticed about myself at times is that when I give people some direction, when I give people some direction, they're so gravitated towards it, like very gravitated towards it. But then when I show them my consistency to try to inspire them to be consistent, it kind of it shies a lot of people away from it for some reason.
It threatens them.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'd call it threat or what. I still can't figure it out. But upon me showing them my consistency, you can see there's a crowd of people that are like, okay, that's awesome. You know, they stay on that. But then a lot of people just stay away from it. And I don't know if it's me shining too much light on their inadequacies and they don't want to fix them, or what it is about me just trying to set the example and doing what I do authentically every single day, that I don't know, it almost feels like they look at it and they're just like turned off by it in a sense, you know? What would you say that can be attributed to?
Yeah, it goes back to like we said earlier. Everybody's so different. Everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
But I think most time they see it as a threat because subconsciously they don't think, "Oh,
Right.
this is a threat to me." They don't
Right.
think that, But the reason for the shying away always has to be there's some sort of fear there. There's some sort of fear there or misinformation to where they don't understand.
Yeah.
They don't understand why you do that.
Okay.
They don't understand why you go that hard. They can't even comprehend it. You know what I mean? Or it's like they see it and it reminds them of what they're not doing. So now it makes them feel a certain type of way because they don't wake up at 4:45. They don't read. They don't go to the gym.
Right.
They can't stop smoking, stop drinking. They can't really lock in. You know what I mean? So instead of seeing that and being inspired and motivated and happy for you, like they should be, unfortunately, it's the opposite because they don't have their self mastered yet, So their self is in the way. They're being selfish, basically.
Yeah, my ego at times wants to be like, man, like I don't know, trying to just almost like pull me away from it. Like, am I doing the right thing? Because it almost wants a level, like my ego almost feels like I deserve a level of, not entitlement, but like attention, or just for me trying to, like, I'm doing the right thing. I want to inspire people, and then certain people that are inspired start to shy away from it. My ego is almost like, man, like, are you doing the right thing? Should you be doing that? And then I got to sit back and really just evaluate myself and just remind myself that it's bigger. It's way bigger than me and way bigger than this little thing. Because I know the level of inspiration that I have for so many people. Like, there's so many people that just tell me that day in and day out, of how much I've helped them, or how their life is better because of something that I've told them, or just me being me inspires them, and then I know that a lot of people feel that way, but then I think that I think I think it's what you said. It just reminds them of what they're not doing, and it almost like makes me sad for them, that instead of looking at, hey, look, I'm shining light on your inadequacies and I'm showing you what you need to work on, they're like, no, like, I don't want to work on it. I don't want to work on it.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier about looking yourself in the mirror. A lot of people can't do that, and don't want to do that. And I've had people not talk to me for years or months because
that's crazy.
just conversations.
Yeah.
A conversation me and you would have and go on about our day and link up later on. You know what I mean? But just certain conversations that people aren't ready. They're emotionally not mature enough to handle that,
Yes.
They're not mature enough to hear a flaw or a constructive criticism, and rather than getting getting negative on themselves. And this goes for sports, this goes for everything. I've been seeing this since little.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And luckily when I was little, my dad was my football coach.
Oh wow.
So for a couple years I got the luxury of having him coach me, and what it taught me was to be coachable.
Yeah.
Was to have a good attitude. Sports taught me things that will take you really far in life, teamwork and collaboration and serving others, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in life, it's almost as if you live one of two ways, they say in spirituality, you make a choice. You make a choice at one point, and the choice is you either serve yourself or serve others.
Yes.
And if you're going to make a choice to serve yourself, you can imagine you're basically disconnecting yourself from the whole, from the collective consciousness, But if you make a decision to serve others, which is supposedly some people believe is the purpose of life, is the service through talents, you know? So if you choose to serve others, it connects you.
I wholeheartedly believe
And
that
there's a big difference on how you feel, how you think, how you walk, how you talk, how you dress when you're connected rather than disconnected.
For sure.
From the collective. You know, if you feel that you're separate, if you feel that you don't belong here, if you feel that, you know, it's dragging you down, it's just so terrible, it's probably because you're disconnected, you know?
Yes.
And there's always a way to get back connected with people and with things. And service is something that is the most selfless thing you can do because of the way it makes you feel, you know?
Yeah. So he hit every point there. And one thing that I want you guys to understand is that last part that he said is, being of service to others is one of the most selfless things you can do. That's so true. But at the same time, I think about it in the opposite side of the spectrum. Being of service to others is almost selfish as fuck. And why do I say that? Because when I'm of service to other people and I see them achieve what they set out to achieve, or I help them out in any way, shape, or form, and then they thank me later and they say something like, because of you, I was able to start this journey. Because of you, I was able to look at myself through a better lens. The feeling that I get is incomparable. I just am so happy that it almost makes me want to keep doing it over and over again to get that feeling. And that's why I think it's almost selfish as fuck to be at service, but it's not in a bad way, it's in a good way. Like, I want to continue to help people. I want to continue to allow people to understand the level of everything that they have within them, that if they just understood that, if they locked in, if they decided this is what I want to do with my life, and I can just help them with things that have helped me, and they're able to achieve it, or at least move 2 or 3 steps closer in that direction, I feel so fulfilled inside. And part of the reason that I have no problem coming here every single time that I need to be here to do a podcast with Isaiah and talk this talk that all the things that we share with you guys is because it makes me happy to be here. I'm not showing up here, at the studio to do a podcast and I'm thinking I have to do a podcast. No, I'm showing up here and I'm like, man, I get to do a podcast. Yesterday we were supposed to do one and he had something else going on and we didn't get to do it. We had to reschedule. And it's like, damn, I don't get to do a podcast. I was looking forward to that. And so me being able to come here and make content for you guys and share my story and share what's helped me and being able to exchange words with my good friend, I get to do that. It's such a good feeling for me to be able to do that. And I hope that every one of you watching this gets the opportunity to feel that feeling. It's incomparable. So be of service to other people, because I promise you, upon taking that journey of being of service to other people, you will find that part of you belongs there. Part of you does belong there.
That's powerful. Yeah, I like that. I like that for sure. Yeah, one of the things that's been on my mind heavy is I talk about this sometimes. When I was little, my mom used to tell me to do music.
Yeah.
She liked my voice.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, that ain't me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll just
in the back, tucked
off in the back with my hoodie on. I'll watch the performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Check it out. But I don't want to be on stage. I don't want all those eyes on me. What am I supposed to do that for?
Yeah.
And this is when I'm like 6 years old. I'm saying this.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? Super young, because this was back when, like, there was the boy bands, the young boy bands that was going crazy, like mindless behavior.
Yeah.
That. You know what I mean? My mom was like, y'all should start one.
Yo, mindless behavior went crazy.
It went crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, like, nah, that ain't me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That ain't me. I can't do that. Yeah. And as years go on, I read a quote the other day that said, the thing you love always creeps back in.
The thing you love always creeps back in.
The thing you love the most always creeps back in, you know. And for me, that was music. And so when I finally came into the calling and accepted it, I say, okay, you know, what am I here for? What am I really supposed to be doing? And I noticed something so powerful is that, yeah, you're right. You can't do that. Not alone. Your spirit isn't qualified, but God's spirit is. And once you walk in the word and walk with God, it starts to change your perspective on things. 'Cause now you're not living in fear and anxiety and worry and stress, and you don't think everything has to be planned. And you know what I mean? There's so many scriptures, so many words that can put you right back online that will show you that's the enemy trying to slow you down.
Yes.
You know? God, that's not God. You know what I mean? So it's like there's somebody out there right now who doesn't feel like, oh, that calling, I can't do that, or that mission, that's too big of a mission for me. Yeah, it is by yourself. But as soon as you put some trust and faith in God and hand your burdens over to him and ask him, what do you want? Who do you want me to serve? What is my purpose? What is my mission? What is my calling? Ask these questions, you know?
Yeah.
Really get alone with your creator and ask these questions, because questions will take you anywhere you want to go if you ask the right questions.
Yeah, one of the things I was reading this morning in the chapter I was reading was speaking about the fact that your goals are not big enough if they don't scare you. Your goals are not big enough if when you mention them to your people, they don't think, how you going to do that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If your people are not questioning that.
If they don't tell you don't quit your day job, you're not dreaming big enough.
Yeah. And one thing that I got from I think it was Steve Harvey I was listening to. He was talking about how fleas jump. I forgot how high they jump, but they're like 20 feet or something like that. When you put a couple fleas in a jar and you close the lid. And so naturally this flea can jump like, I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to say 20 feet, right? So it can easily jump out of that jar. But when you put these fleas in the jar and you put the lid on it, they start to jump to try and get out of it. And they hit themselves, boom. And then they try again and they hit themselves, boom. And eventually the flea realizes that if it keeps jumping to its full potential, that barrier is going to bring it down. And so it adjusts its height of jumping just below hitting the lid so that it just does not hit the lid. And so you open the lid, and now these fleas are conditioned to not jump out of the container they're in because their conditioning in their mind tells them they can't do it. Even though they have the God-given ability to be able to jump 100 times over that, they just won't do it because they've been conditioned. And so who are some people or some of your influences in your life that are conditioning you to have that lid over your head? Because the potential that you have is beyond with anything that you can possibly imagine. But because you've been conditioned to have this lid over your head, you tell yourself you can't do certain things, and you're almost scared to make bigger goals. You're almost scared to 10x your goals. If your goal is to, I want to be a musician. Okay, that's awesome. How about you be one of the greatest musicians in the world? Oh no, that's scary. How am I going to do that? It's not for you to figure out how you're going to do it. It's for you to desire it, put in the footwork, and leave everything else to God. And have the faith that everything is going to work out for your advantage no matter what. When you walk by faith, you live in glory. When you live in glory, that's the highest level of vibration that you can possibly operate off of. Anything that has to do with fear or lag, that's going to go ahead and just diminish you and bring your spirit down. So ask yourself, who are some people that have conditioned you to put this lid over your head? Because the potential that you have and the potential that you're giving out are two different things. Very limited amount of people actually live to their fullest potential. And I do my very best to live to my highest potential. And I know that it's not enough. And that's one thing that I struggle with at times, is the fact that I do so much and I feel like it's not enough. And then I see other people They do so little and they think it's so much. And sometimes I'm like, man, like I wish that I could feel content with the level of achievement that I've set for myself, but I just don't, because I know that there's so much more out there. There's just so much more out there. Why would I just be satisfied with these crumbs when I know there's a whole pie over there? Why would I do that? So stop bringing yourself down to a level of mediocrity to meet other people's expectations of what they think you should be. You know what you should be. Other people don't know what you should be. And if you depend on other people to tell you who or what you should be, you're just going to live at their level. One thing that I talked about this morning was the fact that most people are not cut out to win. Not because they can't, but because their habits outweigh their commitment. And so when your habits outweigh your commitment, it doesn't matter how hard you try, because you're going to continue to go back to the patterns that you're used to. You need to be able to break out of that cycle and understand that if you want something different than everybody else has, you have to do something different than everybody else does. You cannot sit here and tell me you're going to have all these great things, but you're doing what Joe Schmo is doing. I see the results that Joe Schmo has. You're going down the same road that Joe Schmo went down. I can promise you're going to get similar, if not the exact same results that Joe Schmo has. So that's my rant on, living to your full potential.
Yeah, and my mentor told me some real stuff. He said he's read hundreds of biographies, autobiographies, and there's a trend going around with the ones who were truly great is the ones around them didn't see it, and they always say the ones around you are last to see the change in you, the growth in you. So there's somebody right now who's been putting in the work, who's been growing, who's been learning, who's walking that road of their passion, their purpose, and they're right there. But just because their family, their people, the people around them, their teachers, their professors, their bosses, their coworkers, their aunt, their uncle, their grandma, their auntie, whoever it is that's doubting them or putting that fear and doubt, they're being used by the enemy to hold you back. You know what I mean? So you got to know who you are first. Because once you know who you are, can't nobody get in the way.
No.
There's that old African proverb that says, when there's no enemy inside, the enemy outside can do no harm.
That's such a powerful proverb, dude. I love that proverb.
You gotta be your own biggest fan, your own biggest supporter. Like, I got that poster of Nipsey. You gotta be your own biggest fan, own biggest supporter. Put that shit on and wear it every day. You know what I mean? Because if you don't believe in yourself, ain't nobody following you. You might have that real person who sees your potential more than you do, who tells you, hey, I see you, you got potential, and you don't even believe in yourself. You got one of those, you need to hold on to them for sure.
Yeah, one thing we were talking about the other day is sipping on your own juice.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're talking about the fact that you need to visualize exactly where it is that you want to be. You need to feel what it feels like to be there.
You're already there.
You're already there. You have to just mentally, totally just lock in and be there. You need to pour that shit in a fucking glass and you need to sip on it all day long.
Sip on the vibration of your passion, of your dreams, and keep that energy and that frequency, that magnetism. I'm telling you, the more uplifting and positive you can stay, the faster your dreams and passions are going to come to a realization. And sometimes they're not always compensated monetarily, but all work works. It's working on you. If you're not being compensated money-wise, we may think, our parents may look in, this business ain't made no money in 2 years. What are you doing? Don't quit your day job.
Right.
that art ain't making no money. Or
right.
That game ain't making no money. Whatever your dream is, but it could be that next month that you take off. You know what I mean? And so just they weren't on the call. When you got that call, they weren't on there. The call was not for them. They don't have the same purpose or calling as you. I almost wanted to say capacity, but I feel like it's not fair to say everybody doesn't have the same capacity. But let's just say everybody doesn't use their full capacity.
That's a better way of saying it.
So that's what I thought about earlier when you were saying this guy's satisfied with this while I'm doing all this and I'm still not satisfied, because you guys are operating at different capacity levels. And You know, depending on what capacity level you're operating at, that's what you're going to be satisfied off of. You know what I mean? Because somebody who's operating at full potential is not going to be satisfied, you know?
Yeah.
Ever. Like,
Yeah. So
they're going to be grateful, but if you're smart, you'll be grateful, but not satisfied, you know?
Yeah, I was listening to Tony Robbins, and one thing that, you know, really hit home with stuff that I already know, but just I need reminders. I need daily reminders, you know? And one of the things he was talking about is the fact that he said, where do you think most people live? In the past, present, or future? And so I'm thinking to myself, said, well,
my vote is the past.
I said most people. Well, I thought about myself first, and I said, where do I live? I live in the future. Majority of the time, I live in the future. And then so, you know, I thought about it, and I pressed play again, and he said, well, high achievers live in the future. Most people live in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
But the thing about being a high achiever is that you have to be disciplined enough to bring yourself back to the present moment, because you're always trying to anticipate, and anticipation is a superpower. And I'm thinking, anticipation is a superpower. What does that mean? Anticipation is a superpower. And he said, well, think about it this way. If you go to one of your siblings, brother, sister, niece, nephew, whatever it might be, you know, a young kid, and you give them a game, and you know, a great game that they've always wanted, and they start playing it, and they start to get really good. And then, you know, you come over maybe like a week later, and they're like, hey, you want to play this game with me? And then they're showing you like, look, you know, you can't play the game because you never played it in your life. And they're like, look, it's easy. All you gotta do is dot 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 dot. See, it's easy. And they almost rub it in your face, and you're like, I can do that. That's easy. And so you sit down and you play the game with them, and you know you're in trouble when the kid's like, you go first. And so you go first, and so, you know, you get through it, and then you end up losing or whatever, and then the kid's like, not bad for your first try. And then you give the remote to the kid, and then he goes through it. It's like, boom, 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 just dominates you. And so, why did the kid beat you? Did the kid beat you because they're smarter, because they're younger, because they're faster? Why did they beat you? No, they beat you because they're operating off of anticipation, and you were operating off of reaction. They knew what to avoid in the levels. They knew what to be expected. They knew where the monsters were. They knew where the bad guys were. So they could anticipate all of that. You were living off of reaction. You've never played the game, so you were reacting to everything. And so anticipation is a superpower. So when you live in the future, you're living off of a superpower because you're anticipating what could happen, what would happen, but that also works against you. And so you have to be able to balance that out, counteract it, reel yourself back in, and live in the present moment, because everybody's not living life. They're living the life they choose. And what do I mean by that? You choose what you focus on every day. Every single day, there's always shit that you could say, fuck this. Every day, anywhere. You know, I could be in here and be like, damn, it's kind of cold. Fuck this. Have a negative attitude. Would I focus on that? Why would I focus on that? And so you live the life you choose to focus on. You don't just live life. And so you got to choose. You have to be intellectual enough to say, what do I want to focus on? And so if you choose to focus on bad, your life is going to be bad. But if you choose to focus on what's good, your life is going to be good. Not all the time. As long as you know it's a 85-15, 80-20, you're good. Not everything's going to be perfect. But as long as most of it is, that's what matters.
And a lot of the times we judge ourselves too early. They say it takes 10,000 hours to be great or to master something. So don't judge yourself before 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
If you truly love something, you're really passionate about it, just keep putting up shots, keep putting up shots, keep putting up shots, you know. Steph and Kobe wouldn't be them if they didn't shoot 1,000 shots a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Imagine if whatever you did it to the level that Kobe Bryant did.
Mm-hmm.
You woke up at 4 a.m., had a workout, went back at 6, boom, ate breakfast, back working out. Now you're with the team. but you just worked out twice before the team even woke up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's what it really takes, and that's what people don't see. People might just go watch the game and see him dropping 50, 60 points like, oh, this dude's a dog. He's talented.
He's him. He's talented.
He's blessed. He's gifted. He's, all these things, which he is, don't get me wrong. He definitely is blessed and gifted. But at the same time, they didn't see them hours in the gym. You know what I mean? And that goes for artists, that goes for producing, that goes for anything. It's going to be them hours that nobody sees, that only you and God know about. Only you and God know you put that work in. So when you cross paths with somebody who doesn't believe in you or doesn't doubt, if you know how much work you put in, you got that faith like Kanye back in the day when he was going to the labels and they were sending him back.
Yeah.
But he knew. There was no telling him otherwise. They say, nobody can be denied the one who won't be denied. Nothing can be denied to the one who won't be denied.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's the mindset you have to have with your passion, your dream, your business and entrepreneurship, even if it's just your regular job, because if you approach your job with this mindset of not what am I earning, but what am I learning or who am I becoming in this environment, then you're going to gain so much than monetary value. Like you're going to work your way up and you're going to start to learn again. You're going to start to grow again. You're going to start to learn from the people around you. Instead of just being there going through the motions, you're consciously aware and rooted in the moment. Like, okay, what is this moment supposed to teach me to help me with my next moment?
That reminds me of the CEO of Costco. Started off as a forklift driver and now he's the CEO. Crazy. So crazy. Yeah, so, even at your job, like if you don't have a vision of like, I want to start a business or I want to be an entrepreneur, it ain't for everybody. But if your goal should at least be like, I'm going to be the best I can be at my job, whatever it is. If I'm a waiter, I'm going to be the best fucking waiter in the world. There's no other waiter that could ever be better than me. If I'm a teacher, there's no fucking teacher that's better than me. My kids are going to love me more. They're going to be more enthusiastic about my classroom. My classroom is going to look the best. I'm going to have the best energy. Whatever it is you do, like, do it like you really mean it. And if you're not doing it like you really mean it, are you even living or are you just existing? Huge difference. Are you really living or are you just existing? Whatever it is that you're doing, give it your all.
My Billy he said, are you living life or is life living you?
Are you living life or is life living you?
Who's really living?
I love that.
Who's really in charge, Have you ever read the 4 Agreements?
No, I haven't.
Man, I feel like that's a really good, it's things I use every single day. And I hope I remember all 4. I'm pretty sure I will. But the first one is be impeccable with your word. That means don't speak bad about yourself or others. Only use your word to build.
Okay.
Only use your word to, for positivity. And another one is always do your best. And that's what that reminded me of at those jobs and stuff. If you're always doing your best, there's no possible way you could regret that.
No, there's not.
You know what I mean?
But a lot of people, not to cut you off, but a lot of people take the opposite route where it's like, it's just a lame job. Why would I try?
Yeah.
And I think that's the complete opposite attitude you should take towards it. Sure, it is a lame job. Sure, you don't want to be there, but you might as well make it worth it. And upon making it worth it, you'll probably realize that your day is a lot better than those days where you're like, fuck this shit. I don't really care about this. I'm here for a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? And if you truly feel that way, start looking for something else, man. Nobody's forcing you to be there. You live in America. You're not a freaking slave. Nobody's telling you have to work there. Like figure it out. You have to. Joe Rogan talks about this so beautifully where he basically says everybody has something that they love. And if you're stuck at a 9-to-5 that you hate or a job that you can't get out of because you have obligations, you have kids, you have a family, you have to provide, you feel like you're stuck. Okay, well, do it like you love it and show up every single day. And then on the side, instead of watching Netflix and drowning yourself in a fucking beer or drowning yourself in whatever escape mechanism it is that you use, what is it that I actually would like to do if I were to get paid for it? Oh, I like to build furniture. Okay, start doing side projects in your garage on Saturdays or whatever time you have free, an hour a day. Build some furniture, put it on Facebook, sell it, and then somebody will eventually buy it because you love to do it. So it's probably going to come out pretty nice. Somebody's going to like it. And then when you get paid for that, you can start to build off of that and start to realize, hey, this can be my escape. And you have to build that escape. And then eventually, when you get so good at it that you're getting paid from it, that you can, pay half your bills or whatever, then you can, possibly take the risk of like, okay, what if I do this full time? I can pay half my bills and I'm only dedicating, 8 hours a week to this. What if I dedicated 40 hours a week? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to build that escape. So I wanted to say that before I forgot, but hit us with 3 and 4.
Yeah. How much time are we at? You think this is the last thing, or you?
Yeah, this will be the last thing. We don't want to go over, but
yeah, this will be the last thing I'll leave you guys with, because I use this stuff every single day, and I'm telling you, it is so slept on and so powerful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that first one, be impeccable with your word. Okay, don't speak bad about yourself or others. Only use your word for constructive, positive things. Number 2, this is not in order. Always do your best, and whatever you're doing, you won't regret that. Always do your best. Number 3 is don't take anything personal. So what it talks about in the book is majority of the time, what people are going through, they project onto you. So you may have did something or said something, or somebody said something mean or said something to try to ruin your day, but they're just projecting their inside outside. So if you let that get on you, if you let somebody else's emotional state mess up your emotional state, you're taking it personal, and by taking it personal, now you're not in charge anymore. They're in charge of your emotions, so don't take anything personal. Even shit that seems personal, that's just them showing you who they are. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it seems like, oh no, that applied to me, but if it was a different situation, if it was the same situation with a different person, it would have been a different result.
Certainly.
Because that different person would have showed their insides.
I love that.
You know what I mean? So never, and then the last one is never assume. Never assume anything, Don't assume that you know. If you don't know, ask. Because assumptions are what makes us overthink, what makes us have trust issues, what makes us have anxiety, what really ruins relationships from inside out, even if it's just with friends. It doesn't even have to be with your partner or with parents or whatever. So never assume anything. So always do your best. Don't take it personal. Be impeccable with your word and never assume anything. And go read the 4 Agreements, because
that's hard. I love it.
That book is short and sweet, but that shit is powerful.
That's on my list. And what I'll leave you guys off with is just don't hang around negative people. One thing that I will never do in my life is associate myself with people who are continuously choosing to be negative or pessimistic or just bringing you down. That thing is contagious. It'll rub off on you. It leaves residue. I do not want to hear anything that has to do with your life if all you do is be negative, negative, negative. I don't care. And I think you guys should take the same avenue, because if you choose to be around people that are negative all the time because you love them or you feel that you have some commitment towards them because they're, you've been friends since the 1st grade, forget all that. It does not matter. Do not surround yourself with people who you do not want to be like. And that's where we'll leave it off, guys. I hope that you guys got some value out of this. I hope that your guys' day goes beautifully, wonderful, is full of greatness. And this video will be uploaded very shortly.
Ask a question. Who can I help today?
That's a good one. Ask, who can I help today? Follow us on our socials, on Instagram, El Jefe Vic, ELJEFEVIC, all one word. Do you want to share your socials with them?
Yeah, mine is Produce Zay Johnson. It's PRODZAI Johnson.
Hit us up on there. We'd love to talk to you guys. If you guys have any other questions for us, drop a comment, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. hit the like button and share this with a friend. Later,
So-
guys.